Speaker, for the record, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, Ghanaians who have attained the age of 18 years have been denied the opportunity to be captured as registered voters. This is a constitutional wrong. Let anybody challenge me with facts and figures, Mr. Speaker. There has been no voter register opportunity for Ghanaians who have attained 18 years since 2021. That is a constitutional wrong, unacceptable to a country committed to multi-party constitutional democracy. Mr. Speaker, the right to vote and to be voted for is so sacred. Even for you elected members of parliament, one of the minimum qualifications of you to get voted as MPs is to show that you are a registered voter. That is the weight the Constitution imposes on this in Article 94 of the Constitution. So, Mr. Speaker, the Electoral Commission, by virtue of their existing CI, have no reason to tell anybody and to tell this august House why they have so failed to capture Ghanaians who have attained 18 years. So, Mr. Speaker, we have a problem with it. One, the Electoral Commission was now informing the Ghanaian public through Parliament that only the national ID card issued by the National Identification Authority will be a sole reference document for the purpose of registration. Mr. Speaker, that is the intendment of what is referred to as a draft CI. And in it, if you want, I'll refer to the particular purpose. It says qualification for registration. And then it comes, Mr. Speaker, again to say 2, designation of registration centers. And again, Mr. Speaker, our committee found problems with the designation of the registration center. It says a district office of the commission, a district office of the commission, or any other place that the commission considers appropriate. Mr. Speaker, throughout history in 1993, since the establishment of the Electoral Commission, voter registration exercise is done at polling stations, not district offices. And Mr. Speaker, I'll use the example of Bole. A polling station in the Bole constituency is as far as spending 4 or 5 hours to get to Bole Township in order to be able to be captured and registered as a voter. For the Electoral Commission to designate only district officers is problematic for us constitutionally, is problematic for us administratively, is problematic for us for voters to identify.
At the meeting, and even if you look at this report, we seem to acknowledge that the guarantor system has been abused. And indeed, as practitioners, even as practitioners, the thought behind the guarantor system was to acknowledge that where a prospective registrant did not have any means of identification, they could fall on their parents, their spouses, their children, close family members to guarantee and sign a form that indeed I know this person is qualified to be registered. And that as we have moved on along the years, this system has been abused in the sense that people overnight became guarantee contractors, where they join a queue, get registered, they stand by and say that they are waiting to endorse 10 or 5 people that they know them, they should be registered. It's a worry which we must take into consideration. And indeed, if for any reason the guarantee system has been maintained, all these issues must be addressed.
You're welcome back. So you just heard what transpired in Parliament 6 months ago. A similar thing played out in the House when the Electoral Commission tried to table the new CI, constitutional instrument. The controversial clause or section is the one that requires that to obtain a voter's ID card, to be registered as a voter, you need to be identified using your Ghana card. Remember that we are not going to produce a new electoral roll. No. We're getting to election, and the EC needs to update the register. The law already provides for continuous registration of voters once they turn 18. Somehow, amazingly, the EC has not operationalized that. Now, it is hoping to get this passed, then it will begin to operationalize that and use that window to register Ghanaians who have turned 18 since the last election, to add onto the register for the election 2024. So why this opposition? The NDC has raised a number of issues. The major one being that the cards are not presently available to each and every Ghanaian citizen who would want to register to vote. So let's begin from the NIA, the National Identification Authority, to find out where they are, how many Ghanaians they have registered so far, and between now and the elections, will the NDC be justified in continuing with this objection? Remember, 6 months ago, Mr. Agboja, the MP for Adaklu, had said that he is supervising a district of some 24,000 people who are of age, that is from 15 going, qualified to be registered to get a card. At the time when the bill was being sought to be, CI was being sought to be laid, only 2,000 of those people had been registered, and less than 2,000 had their cards. Has the situation changed? We're fortunate to be joined by Professor Ken Atefa. Professor Ken Atefa, Ken Ajiman Atefa, is Executive Secretary of the National Identification Authority. Here in the studio, we have Dr. Dominic Anyenini, who is MP for Bolga East and former Deputy Attorney General and Minister for Justice. Also, Habib Idrisu is MP Tolong and Deputy Majority Chief Whip. We also have on Zoom Professor Ransford Jampo, Professor of Political Science, University of Ghana, and Dr. John Osai Kwapong, Political Scientist, Democracy and Development Fellow, CDD, Ghana. He was with us when we discussed this matter some 6 months ago. Now, we begin with Professor Atefa. And as you know, in 2006, the government of Ghana passed the law. And then in 2008, we did some amendment to it. We passed some regulations to govern it in 2012. And then in 2017, we did further amendment to the law. What does that law do? It mandates the NIA to register all Ghanaians living in Ghana and abroad and foreign nationals permanently resident in Ghana onto the National Identity Register. 2, it is to issue citizens and eligible foreigners with national identity cards. That's the Ghana card. 3, it is to create and maintain a national ID database. 4, it is to ensure the accuracy, integrity, confidentiality, and security of the data collected. And 5, it is to make the data in its custody available to persons or institutions authorized by law to access the data. That is the reason today, without your Ghana card, you can't access banking and financial services. Professor Ken Atefa, thank you very much for making time to join us. Please unmute your mic. Hello, Prof.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Very well.
We can hear you now. But shall we see you? It's been a long while. We haven't seen you on TV.
Yes, that is very true. Just a moment, please.
Right. Right. So as Prof sorts out that, remember that the central purpose of the ID system that we are working with now is to ensure that each citizen has a unique identity which cannot be claimed by another person. A unique identity which cannot be claimed by any other person. That is what it is supposed to do. It's supposed to do data harmonization for verification, e-commerce, social inclusion, and all of that. Prof, thank you once again. Have we resolved Prof's? Yes. Hello, Prof.
Yes, please.
Great. So,
are you able to see me now?
Great. Okay, so I have just, summarized your mandate.
Yes.
To, as far as the law is concerned, you are supposed to ensure that each citizen has a unique identity which cannot be claimed by another person. How far are we with this project?
Okay, so first of all, thank you very much for this opportunity, and I greet all your viewers and listeners around the world very well. This is an opportunity to explain to the good people of this country where we are. Samson, as at the 19th of February, that is the beginning of last week, Sunday, we had registered 17 million, and I've shared that slide with you. That will be slide number 7, if you are able to project it.
Right.
17,375,861 Ghanaians. It is important to situate that in context. As at 21st February 2017, we had registered 4,554,528 Ghanaians. Fast forward to 19th February 2023, we have done 17.375 million. The total number of cards printed as at 2017 was 2,719,425. By last Sunday, we had printed a total of 16,737,734. As at February 2017, we had issued 900,000 cards, almost exclusively in the Greater Accra region. Fast forward to 2023 February, we have issued, that is, we have handed over to 16,095,331 cards to Ghanaians. The card that we have issued to Ghanaians is top-notch, is of the highest degree or caliber in the world. In 2017, we were issuing a 2D barcode card, pretty much like your old driver's license, with only 4 fingerprints and a 2 kilobyte storage capacity. Today, we are issuing smart dual interface biometric ID cards with 10 fingerprints and 148 storage capacity card, a chip that is chip embedded. That is the kind of architecture we have built for this nation. Now, if you look at the statistics of registration, and I heard you mention Honorable Abuja from, I think, Adaklu, you said.
Right.
All those statistics that are being bandied around cannot be from the NIA database. And I do not know how some people purport to get their data. If you are looking for data, come to NIA and we will give it to you. And Samson, we gave our data to the Parliament of this Republic in June of last year upon their request. We were there 3 days ago to give them. We were there yesterday to give them as a result of some misunderstanding over the absence of Mrs. Jean Mensah, chairperson of the Electoral Commission, in the House. NIA could not be heard, and we've been invited back, I presume, on Tuesday. We will be there. We are a responsive, responsible public sector institution, efficient in what we do, committed to being the best. We focused, we are rigorous, and we are coherent. And those three catchwords drive us to provide future solutions now. Now, the data that we have, if anybody wants, we will give them. And then if there is any way of validating the data, we can explore that. This is biometric identification. You cannot exist twice in the database. We cannot suppress your data. So once you are captured onto the database, you exist forever. When you die, the active use of the card is suppressed, but your data is not deleted. It exists in perpetuity. That's the arrangement we have. So we cannot go and disadvantageously or advantageously add onto it or subtract from the database. It is sacrosanct, and it speaks to one of the cardinal principles in our mandate that you mentioned earlier, the integrity, accuracy, and reliability of the data that the database that we create. So, Samson, that is the case. If anybody wants to know, we will be more than happy to share.
Right.
Now, I did indicate that we have cards that have been printed and cards that, a number of people registered is over the number of people whose cards have been issued to them. So obviously there is a deficit in the number of persons who actually possess the card. So for those who don't have the card at the moment, that they fall into two categories. There are those people who have been registered but have not had their cards printed. And then there are those people who have registered and have had their cards printed, but for a variety of reasons have not had their cards issued to them, or they have not gone for their cards. If you permit me, I would like to speak to these two different categories of persons who have not received their cards, and then speak to what plans the reasons for that, and what plans NIA has for addressing that, with your permission, sir.
Please go on.
All right. So thank you very much. Now, as at the 19th of February, as I indicated earlier, we have over 17 million people registered. There are 541,529 cards that are not yet printed. That is, they are ready to print, but have not been printed. And Samson, that is largely because of financial difficulty. Since about August of last year, we have experienced financial constipation in the system, and it's created a situation where even though we have 3.5 million stock of cards in a bonded warehouse, we are unable to access the cards because of financial difficulties. The banks are owed. The private partner with whom NIA does business, Identity Management Systems Limited, which is the private partner in this, and we are operating the Ghana Card Project under a public-private partnership arrangement.
That's right.
That private partner is owed a considerable amount of money. And the banks that have been bankrolling this are unable to further bear the cost, and therefore had refused to, as it were, release the cards to us. Government yesterday made some payments that positions us to be hopeful that going into next week, cards will be released. Now, when cards are released, 541,529 cards can be printed in less than 2 weeks. We have the capacity. We have over 1,000 functional printers. We have people who are trained, who are professionals, who are sitting at home, who are doing nothing and are anxious to work. We call those people back to work. With 500 printers, we can print 50,000 cards a day. We have over 1,000 printers that are ready. That means that in 10 days, in 11 days, we can do all the 541,000 cards. There is absolutely no reason for anyone to doubt that. There is no reason for anyone to be unsure that that is a deliverable, because the capacity exists, the people are available, and as soon as we have cards, in 2 days, we can have the cards in every nook and cranny of this country where there is a regional or district office. And we have regional and district offices in every regional and every district capital, plus Seoul. That means that we have 276 operational district offices and 16 regional offices. We can distribute our cards in a day or two maximum, and printing can begin. We can set up print farms, we can print at every office, and we can also do centralized printing from the headquarters in Accra to augment the capacity of the regional and district offices. So, Samson, that is the plan for the unprinted cards.
Okay.
Now, when you come to the cards that are already printed but not issued, there we have a difficult situation, because we have been drumming the point about the need for people to go for their cards. When the SIM card re-registration was at its zenith, people rushed to NIA to register to get their cards. That is those who had not even registered. And when we ran out of cards at the regional and district offices, and only the premium registration centers at the head office and at CalBank, which had been operating since July 2022, were the only places where the CalBank had made cards available and people could go and pay at a fee and get the cards. These places were swamped. We responded by setting up additional registration centers at the various stadia across the country, and you saw the reaction. Whenever an extension was granted with the SIM card registration, all our registration centers became ghost towns. Whenever the deadline was approaching, we had an avalanche of applicants at all our registration centers. So there are people who know that their cards are at the regional and district offices, but who are not going for them.
Okay.
And we need to address that as a problem.
Okay, Prof. At the last population census, the population of Ghana as at 2020 was 30.8 million people.
Yes, sir.
And out of that number, an estimated 19.9 million, almost about 20 million, were expected to be persons who are 15 years and above. Out of the almost 31 million, almost 20 million were expected to be persons who are 15 years and above. Now,
yes,
the Electoral Commission, as at 2020, had on its register 17 million Ghanaians. Then the NIA, also as we speak, you just gave the figure again, we have in excess of 17 million Ghanaians. We understand that persons who are 18 years and above on your system are supposed to be what number?
I'll have to check that specific number for you while we talk.
16.9, yes. Correct?
Yes, that's right.
Right. 16.9.
Yes.
Now, what percentage of the EC's register do we have as people who use Ghana card to register with the Electoral Commission?
Okay, Samson, I'm unable to give you that percentage, but I'm able to speak to the figures that you yourself have just applied.
So I'm going through your own statistics, and
Yes,
it shows that we have as many as 60% who use the Ghana card for their voters' ID card.
In the last election, yes.
That is right. So it will appear that if presently you have only about 2.5 million people to capture.
Exactly.
Only 2.5 million people to capture. That should be an easy job for you. But we were here 6 months ago, and that was the story we were told. The Electoral Commission actually suggested that you will be able to do that by the close of 2022. Here we are 6 months on. That figure is still outstanding, waiting to be captured.
Yes, Samson, thank you very much. First, let me speak to the figures, and then I'll speak to the plan and the why that where we are, although I have alluded to it. Now, only 2.5 million people remain to be captured. That is an important point to emphasize. Only 2.5 million people. 2.5 million people can be captured within 6 months at our existing capacity without a problem.
Speaking to some experts, you can actually capture them within 3 months or even less, not 6 months.
I said 6 months just to give that latitude, that room to wiggle just in case. And that is why I am confident. The only reason it did not happen last year is what I spoke to earlier, Samson, that we had financial challenges. Because of those challenges, even though we had cards we have cards at a bonded warehouse, we could not access them to provide the continuous registration at our various regional and district offices and at our special centers. Now, with the easing of this financial constipation, we ought to be able, within 3 months, but within a maximum of 6 months, capture every Ghanaian who wants to be captured. And something is important to emphasize it. It is not the case that NIA can ever capture every Ghanaian. It is the case that NIA can capture every Ghanaian who wants to be captured and who submits herself or himself for that process. So these 2.5 million Ghanaians ought to be people who are willing to attend at any of our district or regional offices or registration centers that we may set up in order to be captured. The capacity, the will, the zeal, all of that exists to enable us do that. And as I said just yesterday, some payments were made, and we are confident that it would position us to expect the release of some cards within the coming week so that we can begin to get our work done. The framework exists, the plan is there, and we are willing and ready to serve the good people of this country and meet this 2.5 million target as they submit themselves. It is not a problem. It is an assurance from the National Identification Authority. The governing board is fully behind us, and our staff and management are all, on all fours, lay them on these points that we are ready to serve our people as we always have been.
Prof, I'd like you to be patient with us. Hang on there for us. Let me come to the studio, speak to the politicians, and then I'll revert to you because there are 1 or 2 questions that we would like you to respond to, but after they have also been heard. Thank you very much. We are careful not to draw you into, the issues of the Electoral Commission and what it has to do. Thank you very much. Now, you are the chief opponents of using the Ghana card as the only identifier. Previously, we had the passport, we had the birth cert, we had the guarantor system, we had the driver's license.
That has been taken up since
yes.
2019.
And we also had the NHIA card, which was also taken out. Right. What is the concern now? Looking at the figures, all Ghanaians 15 years and above, only 2.5 million are left to be captured.
Well, Samson, thank you very much. I want to say, categorically, that the NDC as a party is not against the use of the Ghana card for purposes of voter registration. The NDC was part of the parliament that passed the law, the National Identification or Register Act, as well as, the CI 126. Okay, which spells out the...
Actually, the bigger, heavy lifting job was done when your regime was in power. Right.
Okay, so we are not against the use of the Ghana card. In fact, we think that the Ghana card is the solution for delivering a clean society and for delivering a clean election. Okay. However, our issue is the availability of the card. Now, you are talking about the 2.5 million Ghanaians who have not yet been issued with a card. Now, that's a significant number when it comes to the voter register. Remember, the margins by which each of the party wins an election in this country. 2.5 million people is a significant number.
2.5 million, 15 and above.
15 and above.
Right.
So it means that if you disaggregate that figure, okay, there are some who will be eligible to vote, and there are some who will just be, who are minors who are not qualified to vote. So our problem is that if the Ghana card were available everywhere in this country for all persons eligible to vote, we have no problem with that. All right. Now, if you go back to the statute establishing the National Identity Register, you realize that one of the means by which you obtain the Ghana card is the guarantee system, whereby, persons who know you as a member of the community. In areas such as my constituency, very remote areas where people are, born without, birth certificates and so on. They grow up to even JHS, secondary school, and they don't have any form of identification. And so if you insist that these persons must produce the Ghana card, okay, in order to be able to, register to vote, then it means that if you take off the guarantor system, all right, from the national ID, from the voter, the requirement to get a voter ID card, all right, they are going to use the same guarantor system in order to be able to get the Ghana card. So your source document, which is the basis of your, saying that somebody is eligible to register to vote, itself has the deficiency that you are seeking to cure. All right. So our biggest problem is that if you say that and that is the CI is seeking to say that the guarantor system be abolished completely, and that anybody who is coming to register must come with a Ghana card. And we are saying no to that. The reason is what I've just said. In most areas of the country, people do not have the identity documents that would allow them, to easily obtain the Ghana card for purpose.
In most areas of the country?
Yes.
Are we still talking to these statistics? Because it says we have captured in excess of 17 million Ghanaians,
right,
15 and above. And the only number left is 2.5. So how can it be most areas?
Well, the question is, you see, we need to deconstruct the figures. 2.5 million, right, is a global figure. The question is, how many of these reside in the rural areas? Okay? How many of these are in urban areas? And how many are in peri-urban areas? Okay? And so if you are able to easily capture these for purposes of providing them with the Ghana card, then there is no problem. But the problem we have, and you pointed it out very clearly, that 6 months ago we're here, and we're talking about the same number, 2.5 million, that was supposed to be captured. that has not been captured. Why has it not been captured? Well, the Chief Executive Officer of the NIA himself has just articulated a reason. He says that in very polite terms, because we were suffering some financial constipation. Okay, so financial constipation is the reason why we are here. In fact, I am reliably informed that the banks that loaned IMS, money to print, to help in the printing of the production of the cards, actually placed an embargo on the cars that were produced, and these cars were placed in a bonded warehouse. And so currently, the government had to cough up 82 million Ghana cedis in order for those cars to be released from the bonded warehouse to NIA. Okay, so as we speak, that is just $9 million, right? That is a drop in the ocean because I know that IMS, Identity Management Systems, the private partner, is owed in excess of 100 million. So if you pay the company $9 million, you've done nothing. That is absolutely, insignificant when it comes to what you owe.
To the issue of 2.5 million left to be captured.
Right.
Is it not rather the best approach to look forward to how those can be captured rather than opposing the process of insisting that we should use Ghana card? Because as we understand, in the Ghana card system, you can exist only once.
That is so.
But we are, very recently, we have become aware of people holding multiple identities, different birth dates, different birth dates, and different mothers' names and all.
Yeah.
So this, you believe that this is the way to have a clean Ghana, clean society.
A clean society and a clean election.
So why don't we pursue capturing the 2.5?
Okay, so let me backtrack and say something. We are fully in support of the NIA as an institution, okay? And we would, put pressure on the government as much as possible to provide them with the resources because we believe in the work that they are doing. We believe in the integrity of the Ghana card. As you have said, the person who is in the news for having multiple identities, okay, when you put him inside the Ghana card system, he can only come up once.
That's right.
I myself have tested the system before. I walked in, I just put my fingerprints into the system, and I came up only once. So we believe in the Ghana card system. In fact, if you go back to the history, okay, this project was started under Professor Mills.
That's correct.
Okay, it was started under Professor Mills. It went all the way to, His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama. Before, when we lost power, the MPP took it up. And I must say that the current, administration at NIA has done a fantastic job. We must be, honest about that and to praise them for the, good work they are doing. So we think that they can deliver a clean society with a Ghana card, and we think that they can deliver a clean election with a Ghana card. What we don't want to see is a situation where, due to the unavailability of resources, they are unable to cover every eligible voter and then disenfranchise, a lot of our countrymen and women who are otherwise eligible to vote.
This is a number that they can mop up within 6 months.
Right.
And as I said, I've spoken to some experts who say, well, he was talking about deploying 500 of their machines. But if they took the entire 1,000, then they could do this not in 6 months, 3 months. They could actually do it in 2 months.
Okay. So I don't want the discourse to focus on a non-existent issue, because we are not opposed to the NIA's work. We are opposed to the EC's idea of using only the Ghana card at this point in time when, the 2.5 million people do not have it.
Right.
Okay. And we are opposed to the situation where the EC is now saying that if you come to register as a voter, all right, and you are in Gambibugo or you are in Dubila where people do not have access to the Ghana card, you cannot be vouched for.
Gambibugo is my village under his constituency.
And you know the situation very well. This is not a hidden fact. All right. So if that is the situation, we cannot jump, ahead of ourselves and say that abolish the guarantor system and use only the Ghana card. It will lead to the disenfranchisement of a lot.
Is there not sufficient time between now and the elections to have that done?
Well, first of all, let's fund the NIA to complete its work. We can use CI 126 in order to do the continuous registration. And you know that, the constitutional mandate already exists.
That's the existing CI, which already allows the EC to do continuous registration, which law it can use to do the mop-up as in register new
yes, and then
newly qualified voters.
Yes, as the former minority leader, ably pointed out during the debate in Parliament. Okay, we have a situation where Ghanaians that turned 18 in 2019, 2020, 2021 have not been captured, have not been registered to vote. Okay, so in a situation like that, if you now come up with a very restrictive requirement, okay, in rural areas where you don't have people don't have the Ghana card, you are not going to ensure that a lot of people are not on the voters roll, and that is what we are against. We are not against the.
So if the NIA had completed this process, you would not be opposed. It's as simple as that.
It's as simple as that. If we were sure that every eligible voter in this country has the NIA document and can walk to the EC and be registered, we wouldn't be opposed to it at all.
Great. Okay. Habib.
Samson,
this is a reasonable, genuine opposition.
No, I differ seriously. Even with the guarantor system with the NIA and the guarantor system with EC, it's completely different. Professor Tefa is still on the line and might be able to help us. My understanding is that if you want to guarantee somebody or guarantee somebody on the NIA, there is a deposition of oath.
Yes.
In the case of the EC, it is not so.
It is.
It is not so.
No, look at the
it is not so. So it means that on the NIA database, if you are even guaranteeing for somebody, you can be held liable if you actually lie or something like that. And then the fact that their stand is very clear in Parliament when we were having the Committee of the Whole. And they were of the view that we must use the NIA and the guarantee system, or nothing more, nothing less. And listening to Professor Tefa, he already have 3.5 million cards in the custom bonded warehouse. It means that the 2.5 people left to be captured, there is enough cards to cover everybody. And he needs 6 months to be able to do that. So what would be your argument?
But I just told you, 6 months ago, we were here on this debate because that was when the EC had attempted to place this before the House. What we were told was that by the end of 2022, the 2.5 would have been captured.
Samson, like Professor Tefa said, the problem have been financial issues.
Right.
And because of the financial constraint, government is committed in helping the NIA to be able to pay off the debts and get the cards released.
The
I am aware.
You mentioned for purpose of education, so that we don't miseducate our audience, about the guarantor system and the need to swear an oath.
Yes.
In the EC's guarantor system, you need to do the same. As in schedule, the schedule, when you look at Form 1, Regulation 1, Sub-Regulation 3E requires that if you are going to do that, if you are going to guarantee, that's what you do. So you swear, you say, I solemnly swear or affirm that I know Mr. So and so, and that he is qualified to be registered as a voter at the above named registration center. So it's the same.
Okay, Samson. So I don't see the difficulty of our colleagues, because in Parliament, when we had the Committee on the Whole, we had actually tabled to solve this problem once and for all. So we invited the institution NIA, we invited the institution Electoral Commission, and the Finance Minister to come and address Parliament. One, if NIA problem is about money, what is the Finance Ministry doing about it? If your problem is about the guarantor system, can NIA be able to finish what they will do to help Electoral Commission also complete its work? The Finance Minister was present, the NIA, Professor Tefa was present, the institution Electoral Commission was represented by no less a person than the Deputy Commissioner. Then our colleagues said that if not the Commissioner, they would not listen. And then we argued that, okay, for purposes of us, because time is not our friend, why not we listen to NIA and the Finance Minister to be able to help them get the 3.5 million cars released? But at the end of the day, I am aware that somewhere last week, an amount of 80 million has already been advanced by government towards the cars. Another 20 million has been scheduled to be released next week so that these cars, which are the custom burden warehouse, the 3.5 million cars, will be released. But I am very happy listening to Professor Atefa that in less than 6 months, he will be able to finish this registration. And also, the fact that he will still have extra cards for us to be able to register people who will continue to fall into the age between 15 and 18. But if you look at it, like Professor also said, you cannot say that you are going to register every Ghanaian unless those who want to be registered. And I think Electoral Commission, per the provisions and what they do, I think it is when it is like 6 months to election that they don't do continual registration again. So what happened to those?
I think, is it 90
I think
days?
it's 90 days is about 3 months,
90
right?
or 60 days.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So what about within that 3 months, Samson, those who turn 18 the 3 months to the election? Definitely you can't capture everybody, but government is making a lot of effort to be able to help NIA complete the job. The question we need to be asking ourselves right now, whether government is committed in releasing the funds to NIA, that's number one. Whether NIA have the personnel to be able to do it. Whether NIA still have the time to be able to complete it. That will help us for Electoral Commission.
You have that assurance?
Yes, there is that assurance. In fact, that day...
You don't mind that there's a possibility that some of your constituents will be disenfranchised?
See, like I cited, you can only register people who want to be registered. Even those who have voters' ID card in every election, it's not everybody who votes. You still have it, but some people don't even turn up to vote.
That's not what we are saying now.
So no, what I'm saying is that if somebody or some of my constituents or his constituents
when I listen,
don't want to be registered, you cannot force them to be registered.
When I listen to you in government, I ask myself, what is it? Is there something you know that we all don't know? That these 2.5 who are yet to be captured, they are NDC people, and so you can't be bothered. Is that the situation?
But Samson, when you follow the debate in Parliament, even the Honourable Minister responsible for energy had to raise other points of order against the former minority leader, Haruna Idrisi, because he was categorical that if you look at the database, majority of the people who are not registered are from the Volta region, which is NDC stronghold, and then the Upper West region. They have politicized the whole thing. We are not looking at the data in that form. We are of the view that 2.5 million Ghanaians have still not been registered.
I'm saying you should be concerned.
No,
that number remains uncaptured.
Uncaptured, yeah.
But Samson, there is always and there is enough demonstration and commitment from government to get this 2.5 million registered. And I have been engaged.
So you pass the law.
The money has
you
been
pass the law today. You allow the law to pass today, and they are still unable to do it at the time of election.
If you listen to my senior colleague here, he said categorically that they don't have a problem using the Ghana card.
Exactly.
His problem is that if these 2.5 million are not captured, so if it is the case in 2-3 months' time, these 2.5 million Ghanaians are captured, will he still be arguing for
he said
guarantor system?
No.
So for the fact that let's give them the benefit of the doubt, Samson,
look
at the number of people who have been registered, 17 million Ghanaians. That is very significant. And Professor Atefa have demonstrated. If not the interruption that Professor Mills saying he can't work with Professor Atefa and co, if that process had allowed to go, Professor Atefa is very capable and he should be able to finish this thing.
Thank you. Hold on for me. Okay.
Talk about politicization.
No, but it's a fact. He said he can't work with him. He would have been gone long.
Now let me go to, we have two professors also joining us by Zoom. Let me start with Professor Osai Kwapong. listening to the MPs in the studio and having listened to Professor Ken Atefa, how do you propose that we are able to make progress? 6 months ago, when you were on this show, you were hesitant to support the EC proceeding the way it was going when some people were left uncaptured.
Yes, good morning, Samson, and good morning to everyone. And you're correct. 6 months ago, when we talked about this issue, and Dr. Srebro was even part of the panel that day, one of my hesitations was that whilst we all believe in the fact that the NIA and what they are trying to do in terms of the whole Ghana card system is a really good idea. We do, as the Honorable Anyenini said, we all want a clean society, a credible registered voter, etc., etc. But I remember that one of the points that I raised was that my hesitation has to do with unforeseen circumstances, right? That you don't want to lock yourself into a situation where, in the event that something happens that we do not anticipate, then where do you leave those eligible voters who have a fundamental right to vote, but perhaps because of some administrative bottleneck are unable to get the Ghana card? I think it's been extremely helpful to have Professor Atefa here this morning to clarify some of those issues and provide all of those assurances. It looks like one of the biggest challenges that the authority faced, as he described it, was financial constipation, right? And so when you remove that bottleneck of financial constipation, then the ability of the authority to register people who present themselves should not necessarily be a problem. And so after having listened to him, right, I accept the assurances, but again, the one thing then that we have to keep saying to ourselves is, I think the assurance have to be double sure that that financial constipation that slowed down the process would not happen again, right? Because it doesn't look like the issue is one of the capacity of the authority to be able to register people who present themselves, right? They have the registration centers, they have the personnel to be able to do that. It looks like the biggest challenge they faced was one of financing. And so I can accept the assurance that the number that is left to be captured, they will be able to do that within the time frame that we have. I mean, we are in February of 2023. Election is not until December 2024. So I accept that part of his presentation. And I accept the assurance that the financial issues are being resolved. But we also know the current fiscal challenges that is also facing the government, right? So that is where I still have a little concern, and keeping my fingers crossed that if all of those stars align and those two things happen, then yes, we should be able to, get this taken care of, and then to, address some of the concerns that the minority, has raised.
Prof, if this is a money problem, and this is a priority of the government, why is it that we are back here 6 months after we raised these issues and it's still not resolved?
There are also many other priorities that needs to be addressed, right? You're talking about a situation where several priorities are competing for limited resources, scarce resources, right? You also have a situation where the government is in a very difficult fiscal situation. So it has to find a way of balancing the many priorities that are competing for, the little fiscal space that we have. But you're correct. If this is, if this is one of the biggest priorities, and it goes to the heart of something fundamental as the right to vote and the ability to deliver a clean, credible election, then some reprioritization has to happen, and the authority must be given all of the resources that it needs to be able to do this. Because I think the last thing we want to do is to go into an election year with all of these questions still hanging around. Because again, ultimately, we all want a clean, credible, electoral process that we can all have faith in and stand behind. So it looks like it's really contingent upon making sure that the NIA has the financial resources, because the human resource, if I listen to Prof, doesn't seem to be an issue for them.
Professor Jampo, thank you also for joining us. Now, see, we are heading to a point where, because of the Ghana card, we will not be saddled with the ritual, spending on voter registration processes. And this is a country where we have spent in excess of, 200 million sometimes just for these processes. And we're getting to a point where we will not need to do that any longer every 4 years. Take, for example, our SNIT system. And remember the bizarre story of the OBS matter that came up that is also in court. At various levels, everybody is doing their own cards and spending millions of dollars. If you speak to some of our donor people who have better insight, they will tell you that these are the avenues for corruption. So, if this is what we are getting to, what should be the difficulty in putting the money in making sure that this is done and dusted? Please unmute your mic.
Hello, Samson.
Yes, sir, we can hear you now.
Oh, am I on?
Yes, please.
Oh, what question did you ask? Sorry, I was distracted.
So my question is this. We all appear collectively, unanimously agree that the Ghana card is the way to go. That the Ghana card will give us, like Dr. Dominic Anyenini's words, a clean society, which is exemplified now by what the recent matters that we are hearing, where one individual has many identities or double identities, multiple identities, but in the NIA system, you cannot have a double identity. You can always have one identity. We all envy, places like Britain, elsewhere, because this is how the system works. What is the difficulty in finding the money and giving this a priority if the only number left to be captured is 2.5 million?
Well, you see, if you're asking me what is the difficulty in finding the money, you should be asking the government of the day. I'm not a government. I'm not the fundraiser for the government. The idea of having a national identity card is laudable. I think it was introduced by J. Kufuor, and we've supported it since it was introduced. We tend to have too many identities, like you rightly mentioned. Yesterday, I wrote a piece and I realized we have hospital identity cards, SNIT cards, staff ID cards, passport, voter ID cards, driver's license, national health insurance ID cards. These tend to create needless identity crisis for us. And so it was a good call, it was a good initiative when the idea came up that we should synchronize all our identities into one card called the Ghana card. It's a very good cause. And so I've argued that if truly we need to synchronize our identities into one card, then the electoral commission's decision to ensure that we use only the Ghana card as a source document for voter registration is also great, as it will facilitate the need for all of us to help in making the call for a synchronized identity a reality. But like you mentioned, we don't have money. We are a broke nation. The National Identification Authority tells us that it had been able to register or capture about 70 million Ghanaians. But out of these 70 million Ghanaians, you should know that it includes a site.
I hope we are not losing Professor Jampo. So we are losing him briefly. Okay. Hello, Prof.
Yes, I am here.
Yeah. What do you say about realigning the EC's budget to financially empower the NIA to complete the Ghana card registration?
Hello.
Yes, Prof.
Yes. So Samson, sorry. So
what do you say about realigning the EC's budgets to financially empower the NIA to complete the Ghana card registration?
Well, the issue of funding to enable the NIA to continue to provide us with credible identification is not the only challenge that I see. You see, the point is this: using the national identification card, the Ghana card, as the only source document to allow people to register as voters is a serious decision that would hugely impact on the electoral fortunes of political parties. And such serious decisions must always be implemented with consensus. Let me tell you this. You remember, President J. Akufo introduced the Ropa, Representation of People's Amendment Law, in 2006. Now, I remember there were demonstrations, petitions, and boycotts, and so many things that were done to prevent that law from being passed. But because the president then...
Okay, unfortunate, Professor Jampo's line is not as reliable. Is Prof's line stable now? Okay. Unfortunate there, but as we understand, Dr. Dominic Anyenini has said it is not the ideal that they are opposed to. It is the practical question of the non-coverage, as we speak, of 2.5 million, out of which you have potentially how many voters? That is where he has an issue. But we all agree that it is a good thing. As we understand, the Bank of Ghana and financial institutions, we are talking about 24 universal banks, 146 rural and community banks, 16 savings and loans companies, 16 fintechs, 5 finance houses, 3 microfinance institutions, the Social Security and National Insurance Trust. I'm talking about those who are merging with this system now, so that now you have one identifier. You don't have a situation where one person is able to hold 2 passports, 3 passports, and some of them you will find out the passport issuer does not even have them in their system. The Ghana Revenue Authority, National Health Insurance Authority, the Ghana Immigration Service, the telcos, Student Loan Trust, National Service Secretariat, Passport Office, the DVLA, and now the Electoral Commission. And as we understand, the 17 million voters on the EC's roll, you have over 10 million of that number having used their ID card, their Ghana card. The EC is seeking to clean the process. So you listen to them and their hesitation in using any other means for now is to avoid diluting what they have managed to sanitize over a period. Professor Jampo, if you are back, you can please continue your statement.
I was making the point that Dr. Afarijan was wise and cautious in building consensus among the key political actors on major decisions that could have plunged the country into chaos if they had not been handled well. In 2006, for instance, President Kufuor introduced the Representation of the People's Amendment Law. The bill was fought by civil society and many pro-democracy forces through demonstrations, petitions, etc. But the NPP majority passed the bill and the president assented to its same day to become law. But Afarijan took a very patriotic stance that he was never going to implement the law so long as there remained the lack of consensus among the key political actors. His fear was that without consensus, the implementation of Ropa could lead to a serious political conflict. And so this is why the Ropa has since not been implemented in spite of Kufuor's signing of it into becoming a law with alacrity. And so I respectfully urge the Electoral Commission bosses to copy from best practices as the Bible tells us in 3 John chapter 11, verse 8, chapter 11a. The point is this, there is a serious trust deficit among key political actors of the functioning and the role of both the NIA and the EC. And I am of the view that if this trust deficit is not worked at, if the Electoral Commission would want to just emphasize on its mandate without going the extra mile to win the rest of the political elites on board, then we are headed for serious confusion. We are headed for trouble. And so I think that look, as we speak now, if you speak to some of the political actors, they will tell you that it appears that the machines, the equipment used for voter to capture the details of Ghanaians who are registering for the Ghana cards are many and seem to be working effectively in areas regarded as the stronghold of the ruling party. And the machines are limited and malfunctioning in areas regarded as stronghold of the opposition. Now, whether it is true or it is not true, you have to meet the actors to give a certain assurance. You have to meet the actors to let them know that these may not be true. If they are true, what are some of the measures you are taking to address them? These have not been done. And so people are looking at the activities of the Electoral Commission with a lot of suspicion. As I speak to you now, if you do not want to be in the queue, go to the NIA office right now. You see, so many people have marched up there looking for cards. Now, if you do not want to be in the queue and you don't have the time, you have to pay 250 cities to be able to procure the card. So I went to procure cards for 2 of my own kids, and then I had to pay 500 cities to be able to get a card. And I'm wondering, if you have 3 kids or if you have 1 kid, how many Ghanaians are able to procure or marshal that resources in this period of economic crisis? How many Ghanaians will be able to have the resources to be able to go procure cards? If you don't take care, then what you are doing is that you are working to undermine the democratic principle of universal adult suffrage. If you don't have money, you cannot get a card.
All right.
If you don't get a card, you cannot register. If you don't register, you cannot vote. And then the Electoral Commission is saying...
But Prof, in the face of the facts, should you join those who are generalizing these matters the way they have been generalized? In the face of the bare facts, the sacred facts, that 17 million plus have been captured. It's almost 18 million now, I think. And
no, please do that.
And Prof, the outstanding, the outstanding in the population of 15 years and above left to be captured is 2.5 million. So The question now is how to progress to cover what is left. Should the CI proceed or be held in abeyance until the 2.5 have been captured?
It's not only about 2.5. The 17 million that you spoke about as being captured. It does not reflect the total number of voters who are supposed to be voting. Do the math well. You realize that the 17 million who have been captured, they include minors and they include also foreigners. You have to subtract the minors who cannot vote from it. You have to subtract the foreigners who cannot also vote from it. And then the NIA itself tells you that it has some 3.5 million Ghanaians who have been registered but whose cards have not been printed for them because there's no money to go print those cards for them. And so my point is, these are some of the teaching challenges. Apart from these teaching challenges, there are also serious trust deficits of the activities of the Electoral Commission by the main opposition party. And I'm saying that to the extent that this decision, this CI, will have a major impact on the electoral fortunes of political parties, you must not proceed without building consensus. That is what we know
Prof, according to the NIA's figures, I think you are working with some figures that need to be updated. According to the NIA's figures, as at last Sunday, people 18 years and above who have been captured are 16.9 million. 18 years and above. So the Electoral Commission says it has 17 million on its roll. And we know that from a long time now, the goal has been to remove the ghost names, the multiple people on the electoral register.
Yeah, so Samson, I get you very well, but the point is that the issues that I'm tabling now that you are seeking to controvert are the issues that are in the psyche of many people who are raising these as counter proposals, counter issues to what the Electoral Commission is saying. And the only way you can iron these issues out is to dialogue and to build consensus. And so, and to be able to also iron the trust deficit that is currently plaguing the activities of both the NIA and the Electoral Commission.
Okay.
And so let us not proceed without consensus. And I'm giving you an example that Afarijan took that decision of not implementing the Ropa because he felt that without consensus, we are headed for implosion. And so let nobody doubt the independence of state institutions. Let the independence of state institutions
I acknowledge that point about Afarijan. But as you know, I am the lawyer who led Ghanaian diasporans to go to court and to seek a compelling order that the Electoral Commission should implement the Ropa. They have not been able to implement it up to now.
You are not the right person.
Since 2017, when that judgment was issued.
Yes.
In fact, they returned to court to beg for extra time. The court gave them extra time. They have still not been able to do it.
So, but I'm giving
from where I sit, it is a no-brainer. It's a simple issue. If Niger is even doing diaspora vote in Ghana, Ghana should. We call ourselves a pride nation. We should be able to do this better, particularly in a Ghana card regime. Professor Tefa, there are issues that are being raised that I think you should address quickly.
Can I complete my point on that? You see, so Samson, you are entitled to your views on, and you have the right to take the Electoral Commission on for non-implementation of that Ropa. But my point is that the reason why Afarijan decided to hold on to implementation had to do with the fact that he wanted some consensus to be built.
The point I make to you is that there is even a court order that should have been pursued, but they have not done it. That is to show you that even after Afarijan, they are still doing consultation. So it's not only Afarijan who has been consulting.
Well,
this Electoral Commission, This electoral
If they are
commission
not
has said,
doing
this
consultation,
electoral commission
let the
has said
frontiers
on
of
this show that it
consultation be
needs
expanded.
both parties to agree to come together to be able to implement it. Let me go to Professor Kenatefa because of the questions, the issues that you raised. Professor Jampo. Prof, thank you very much. I hope you're still there.
Yes, I am.
Great.
I am still here, and I'm grateful for the opportunity once again.
Right.
Yes, I think I have just sent you some information on the registration statistics that you talked about with respect to Adaklu.
Right.
And if there were opportunity to highlight it, but let me just use that to illustrate the porosity of the argument that have so far been made about these statistics. As I've indicated earlier, these are biometric data. You cannot exaggerate it, you cannot diminish it. Number one, Adaklu. The total population, according to the Statistical Service, based on the Population and Housing Census 2020, the total population of the district is 38,649. The population aged 15 and above is 24,973. The total number of enrollments, that is registration, the total number of persons registered in that district is 21,688. The total number of cards printed for that district is 21,053. The total number of cards issued in that district is 20,408. The total number of cards unissued for Adaklu cards that have not been given to people, is 645,000. The total number of cards that are yet to be printed in the system is 482. The total number of persons aged 18 years and above in that district is 21,144. And the total number of people below the age of 18 is 544 in this population cohort. So all those things that they have been saying, the probable explanation is that somebody goes and speaks to a district registration officer and gets figures for the current period that that district registration officer has been at post, not taking into account figures captured during the mass registration period when that person was probably not the district registration officer. Or they go and speak to a technical enrollment officer and get a partial view. Anyone who wants reliable data on National Identification Authority should contact NIA. Parliament requested for this. We've given it to Parliament. The Parliament, the representatives of the people, have all of these. And if anybody wants a means of validating the database, the information I have shared, they are at liberty to do so. But let me also go to some of the things. I think Professor Jampo is completely wrong in accentuating some of the points by highlighting points that have no evidentiary basis, that exist in the realm, comfortably in the realm of speculation. He does injustice to the nation. And I think Prof ought to take it back. First of all, it is not true that the 17-point-something million we are talking about includes the foreigners. The foreigners are registered under a separate system called Foreigner Identification Management System. That database exists. The figures I have been quoting are figures of Ghanaians registered in the National Identification System database. That's number one with respect to Prof. Number two with respect to Prof is the unfair comment on the premium registration service. The premium registration service has existed since July of last year. It was an additional facility introduced to make life easier for those persons who want to take advantage of a premium facility. The free registration service has never ceased. It has always been there since we started mass registration on the 29th of April 2019. That service has been at every regional and district office since November of 2021, when we established 292 offices nationwide. there has recently been a problem with card supply, blank card supply. But just as you go to DVLA and you can go and have a premium service, you go to NIA and you can have a premium service at a Scal Bank office, at the head office of NIA, in Takoradi, in Kumasi, and in Koforidua. And we're planning to extend the service to Ho and Cape Coast and all the other regional capitals. These are sequenced. But by all means, let's not attack it as a substitute, because it is not a substitute and it's not disenfranchising anyone. As soon as the car supply situation eases, and I hope that will be next week, we will be everywhere as we have been and serve the good people of this country with the free service. People were willing to pay 250 cedis, as he was saying, all of their own, not at the instigation of NIA, and they come there 4 a.m. They're at our gates. Yet the free service, when it was all over the place, there were people who refused, who declined to go and register. So that's number 2. Number 3, Professor Jampo should not be given fuel to an unfounded, I think a bit reckless claim that equipment somehow function, some equipment are functioning best at in government support, areas with government sympathies and performing badly in opposition areas. That's a very terrible statement to echo publicly. First of all, I debunk it 100%. It is untrue. Equipment failure can happen. You think that I will sit there and allow and ship off more functioning equipment to Adaklu or Ketu or whatever, and ship better ones to Bantama and Dras, whatever for? There is nothing to be gained. It gives nobody any advantage, not electoral, not practical, nothing to disadvantage any particular region. And when we were doing the mass registration, I can tell you, I was in the field. The Volta region was the best region in terms of our registration experience. For whatever reason, internet connectivity network was strongest in most parts, most villages in the Volta region. The people were better behaved than anywhere else. Queues were shorter, queues were disciplined, they showed respect for the elderly. I've said this umpteen times.
Yeah, so specific to that region, and particularly to the Adaklu district, I think now the onus will be on the MP for the area, Governor Kwame Abuja, to now prove otherwise, that these numbers are not the numbers that have been captured. From your statistics, those who are qualified, who are of voting age, appear to have been fully covered. So now the ball will be on his court to prove otherwise.
Thank you, sir. And then finally on Prof. Jampo, on the trust deficit in NIA and EC. Again,
Prof. Atifa,
Prof, just hold on a second.
I think it's important that I defend my chief whip here, because Prof said it rightly.
Please, can I just?
Prof, just hold on a second for me.
Because you see, Samson, I'm also an MP, and the reality we face is that when you go to the NIA office in my district, all right, they would give you statistics, and you would have no reason to disbelieve the officer who is giving you the statistics. Okay, so when you take that as an MP, that is what you run with. Of course, a lot of MPs will not come to head office to be able to get the accurate statistics that he has put out. So I don't think that my chief whip was lying to the nation or doing anything untoward or mischievous. He was basically talking to statistics given to him at the office, the district office of the NIA, and he cannot, disbelieve. He has no reason to disbelieve them.
But you can come from a different...
Prof, if people apply for the breakdown from your office, will they be giving the information?
Absolutely. And Samson, under the RTI, the Right to Information Act, people have been writing. It's one of the biggest headaches now because MPs, ordinary people, party people, everybody have had to, in addition to the traditional arrangements, have people, a special task force assigned to the provision of information on registration statistics alone. But it is wrong for people, and I say this with the greatest of respect, my Honorable Dr. Dominic Anyenini is not entitled to go to the district office and ask a district registration officer for data about that district when the data at that district at any given time, and that's a problem that some of them have run into, it is a national database. We can give you the specific down to village if you want, but by all means, ask from the right source and let us give it to you. But if you get it from your district and you want to put it out, then I'm inviting you in all humility to please cross-check with us, and we have no reason not to support you in doing your work as an MP by putting out the right figures. So that is an important point. Okay. But let me also thank the Honorable Dominic Anyenini for recognizing that we've done a fantastic job. I thank him for that honesty. It is important to point out, however, that as one of your panelists said, I think it's Prof. Jampu, this whole National Identification System project was started by President J.A. Kufuor, not President Mills.
That's correct. That's
President
correct.
Mills continued. President Mahama continued. And President Akufo-Addo has continued. They all continue with different degrees of zest, passion, and commitment. I think that one of the critical success factors has been the sterling commitment of President Akufo-Addo to continue with what his predecessors had started and engineered, and to also maintain leadership, because the frequent changes in leadership at the NIA has been a bane rather than a blessing. Okay. And I think also until recently, until July, August of last year, the financial commitment. I want to also emphasize one last thing, please. The current problem we have is not one of technical or operational readiness or competence. We can solve the problem. That's the assurance I give to the good people of this country.
Okay.
I want to also emphasize that the synchronized identity that Professor Jampo was talking about has already been achieved. Time was when some of the institutions you mentioned in your roll call, Samson, had not onboarded the verification system. Because they had not onboarded the verification system, you go there and they'll tell you, oh, your Ghana card is not good. Go back to NIA. Your Ghana card is no good. Now they have onboarded. They have acquired, they've invested in the equipment. And all of a sudden, that problem has disappeared. A lot of the people whose cards were not good were people who are not taking good care of the card. The chip had, been damaged or mangled. Even though you see it, it looks all right, but it was not working. But the majority of the problems have now been solved. We have had over 120 million hits and not a single hitch. All those institutions, you go to the bank, you go to the telcos, they are verifying your identity, and within 300th of a second, they get a reply back that says that you are who you say you are. What we are set up to do is to improve the scale of integrity in this country. Our commitment is to ensure that there is transparency, that we have a single truth anchor in this country. And I want to assure the NDC, in particular, on this occasion, and everybody else, that you see the data harmonization and integration we are championing will make it possible for NDC to receive in real time the same data we give to EC. And if Joy FM or any other entity, it is the principle of immutability, simultaneous provision of the information to those that by law are entitled to have them. So the information we give to EC will not be different if you say those aged 18 and above. Okay. It will not be different from those at SNIT or at DBLA or at any other institution. So we have transparency, we have integrity. And the last comment is about the oath, the guarantor system. Under the EC law, the swearing of an oath was the guarantor system. What we did was to take it a notch higher by requiring that you do so before a commissioner for oaths. so that we introduce the element of penalty for perjury. And so we got the Chief Justice to train over 1,300 commissioners for oaths that we made available at every registration center and every district and regional office, so that you depose to an oath and the consequences are explained to you and it is clear. We also go the extra mile of requiring that you vouch for persons because you are a relative of that person or you are qualified by a certain legal criteria. And you must have a Ghana card already. And your Ghana card is attached to the registration of the person you are vouching for. So if you lie, in perpetuity, your records are linked. And right now, we're going to prosecute. We're going to start the prosecution of persons who we have reason to believe provided false information in vouching. It's about integrity. It's about the improvement of the scale of credibility in our country. So, Samson, I thank you very much. These are some of the responses to...
And Prof, thank you very much. Our time is fast spent, but I'll propose that the RTI law also requires proactive disclosure. So if you have, you are inundated with RTI requests to disclose some of these, I think on your website, you should make provision so that people don't have to come to you in the first place.
We have provided information on our website, but if it is, I will check and update it.
Right.
But we now know that there is a great deal of interest in disaggregated data also.
That's
and
right. People want to see the breakdowns. They are very much interested in those. Thank you very much. Professor Ken Atefa has helped us quite a great deal. I'll just take a word or two from my other panelists, and then we will take a break to return to the other issues. Professor Kenneth Ajiman Atefa is Executive Secretary of the National Identification Authority. Yes, Dr.
Yeah, so Samson, you asked a very, very important question, and I think that question was directed to Professor Jampo,
right,
about realignment of the budget of the EC so that the National Identification Authority will have funds to be able to do the registration.
Right.
Because if the idea is to merge the identification system of the NIA with that of, the EC, there will be no need for having two parallel budgets that are being funded.
That's right.
But the difficulty then is, will the Electoral Commission, abolish its own voter ID card? Because the budget is usually to fund not only the process of registration, but also the issuance of the voter ID card at the end of the day. But it's an important, issue that we need to think of as Parliament.
So you are going to deal with it in the House. So you have the solution.
Yes.
Actually, your committee is handling this matter. Right.
Yes. So definitely, I'm sure during the committee of the whole discussions on the financial matters, we'll definitely have to bring it up as to whether monies can be shifted from EC to the, NIA, so they can pay the private provider of the services that we are enjoying as a state.
Okay.
Yes, Samson, I think time have come for us as Ghanaians to be able to back the Electoral Commission and the NIA, because it's so worrying that our neighbors, Burkina Faso, Togo, have a national identification, and we are still struggling when we can be said that...
No, if you check on the continent of Africa, Ghana is doing
very
well.
But if you look
your
at
richest countries like Nigeria don't have any of this.
Yes, but I'm just talking about our neighbors, the Francophone countries. They have their national ID. But when we come to democracy, we still look at Ghana being in the center of affairs. And I am very convinced that government is very committed in investing in the NIA. If there is any government that have invested a lot in NIA to get to where we are, to be able to register about 17 million Ghanaians, it is this Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo-led administration. The committee of the whole, we will definitely have it on Tuesday, and we hope that our colleagues will be able to cooperate with us, because the last time that was the extent, to bring the NIA, bring the finance ministry, and bring the Electoral Commission for us to be able to see how best we can do.
In terms of consensus building,
in terms of
for so long as You would allow consensus building.
Yes,
we are
that's
not
what I'm saying.
cooperate with you.
That's why I'm saying
that. A unilineal agenda.
The point is that Electoral Commission have already consulted before arriving at this decision of using Ghana card as the sole. IPAC, they have agreed.
All right.
When we come to the Committee on Subsidiary Legislation,
I need to go.
They agree on this.
Professor Sai, let's hear your concluding comment. But if you look at the World Bank, tells us that Ghana is only among, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other countries in Africa that are doing state identification systems using smart ID system. Others are doing the 2ID system, 2D ID system, and the majority of them are non-biometric, no ID systems. So Ghana is actually, a leading example.
Yes, and I think so far through all of the comments expressed, there's really consensus that this is a good thing that we are trying to do. You also talked about the ideal versus the practical realities that we face, which is the linking of the Ghana card now to the eligibility to register to vote. And again, I accept Prof. Atefwe's assurances that on the technical side, the human resource side, we're good. I just really hope that the financial challenges that they faced would all be sorted out as they try to register the remaining number of people that they need to register and make sure that they can get a Ghana card in their hand. Because I think it would be very unfortunate that way down the line, far into the election year, then some of these financial issues will come up again, and then you realize that an eligible voter doesn't have a Ghana card in order for them to be able to register. Which again is the reason why, for me, I don't want the EC to put itself in a box and at least make provision for some backup, because again, in public administration, there are always unanticipated situations, and so if down along the line you should run into some challenges, at least you would have made provisions to deal with that. But like I said, I really hope that everything that the NIA needs will be provided to them if we are going to insist that the Ghana card be the sole source document for registration to vote.
All right, thank you very much. Professor Jampo.
Samson, thank you very much. I have listened to Professor Tifa and wanted to give a few responses while he was on, but he's gone, so I'll summarize. See, Samson, it's not about being eloquently defensive about anything. He operates a very human institution that has challenges. He must be receptive to critiques and be open to suggestions.
But Prof, we should be speaking to the facts. Unless you have alternative facts, we should be dealing with the facts.
Let me conclude with whatever I want to say in response briefly. I'm saying that the practice of publicly touting achievements and privately complaining about challenges is very unhelpful in our quest to build institutions. He talks about porosity of argument, but I say that conflicts do not emerge as a result of logical arguments and reasoning. I don't feed that, something and he's a professor. He knows I don't feed without research, and part of research means talking to people. Part of research means talking to people. And so if I speak to people, including his own people, and I get a certain information, and he has superior empirical information to controvert mine, that is fine. It doesn't mean that somebody is banting about fabrications. Without research, without talking to people, I have no job. And he knows this as a professor. I spoke to people, including some of the very people that he trusted, or he trusts, and they gave me some of this information. And so if he feels that I am wrong, every scientific data must be capable of being falsified. And so if he tells me that he has a superior information or better information, empirical information, and facts must speak for themselves, I agree. But the key point is that he must deal with the trust deficit and allow the empirical evidence he has that cannot be controverted to speak for themselves. As at now, some people have certain information that we've spoken to, including his own people. And then he also has his information. How do we bridge the gap? How do we ensure that we are all brought together, all political actors are brought together and given data and facts that are incontrovertible? That is what he failed to address, and that is what a question that I was expecting you to put to him, you didn't put to him. And so my point is, we have one Ghana. He should not have, and it's happening one too many. You go to talk to public service, you go to talk to organizations and institutions of state, behind the scenes, they chronicle all the challenges that they have. But when you put them on air, then they begin to tout everything, achievement, as if there's nothing wrong. And that is what the respected Professor Atefa is doing. Saying everything as if there's nothing wrong with
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
When you go
I'm not sure. I'm not sure you are being fair to him. Yes. I'm not sure you are being fair to him. As far as what he spoke about was concerned, he admitted what the biggest challenge is. He didn't say everything was rose, everything was all right. Please, well, I don't think that's fair to him.
In conclusion, I am just trying to say that he should not be seeking to be saying things as if some of us go about spewing propaganda like some politicians do.
For example, you mischaracterize the premium service as though that was the general service for everybody who needed an ID card.
No,
and that was wrong.
Do such a thing. If you listen to me carefully, what I said was that if you go there, even as we speak now, go to the NIA head office, you see so many people massed up there. And then if you don't have the time to also be in the queue, then you have to go and pay. And that is the practice. It happened to me. I am speaking from experience. It is not something that somebody.
No, but the fact that there's premium service is not secret, correct?
No, I'm not saying it's secret. I'm saying that there are so many people who would also want to get their card. They don't have the time to be in the queue. Some of them, you ask them, they've been in the queue in perpetuity. If they have the resources, they will be able to. They will want to go pay and get a premium service.
It is fair to acknowledge that when the mass registration was going on, there were places that people were just not showing up, and the NIA was complaining about that. Do you acknowledge that as well?
Well, I don't have qualms with that, what he's saying with respect to that. People were not showing up. Why were people not showing up? We can go into the reasoning and explanations for the variables that accounted for people's lack of enthusiasm in showing up. But
including the NDC's attempt to discourage people.
Will you let me make my point, because
please, we need to move on now and to get ready for the next set of topics. Professor. Thank you very much, Professor Jampo. And you have been listening to our guests, including Professor Kenneth Agyeman-Etefa, Executive Secretary, National Identification Authority, Dr. Dominic Ayine, MP for Boga East and former Deputy Attorney General and Minister for Justice, Habib Idrisu is MP, Tolong, and Deputy Majority Chief Whip, Professor Ransford Jampo, Professor of Political Science, University of Ghana, Dr. John Osai Kwapong, Political Scientist, Democracy and Development Fellow, CDD Ghana. We'll take a break, and when we return, a very limited time for the other two topics to look at. That is Parliament at 30. Is it still a rubber stamp? Many will say yes. And then the NDC's flag bearership race. Is there anyone, including Dr. Kwabena Duffuor, who can, unsettle John Mahama? We'll be right back.